What is up, my friends? So it's been a while since I've made a video. I think it's time to come back, though. A week away, or two actually, for my birthday, and I think it's a good time to come back. So let's talk about Saw. More importantly, Spiral from the Book of Saw. Now, when we heard about this movie, I think many of us were pretty excited, but deep down, we were also scared. I mean, Saw has been a franchise that I think we can all agree has been slowly declining in its interest we've all had for it, and just belief that it can become something that the first three were. Now, I'm not saying that the continuation after the third one was horrible, but some of them were a little bit on the side of things. So I think that with this new spin off that we heard, we were all expecting something refreshing, hopefully, something that would take it to another level, especially because the story behind it was kind of incredible. But hearing that Chris Rock had actually presented an idea so great that the studio was like, get him on board right now. And I think the idea of having new faces, a recognizable face such as Chris Rock as well, that we know he does some pretty good roles. I think Death at a Funeral is his best role so far, and I would definitely encourage you to go watch that movie if you haven't already. But I think that hearing that he was in this, then we heard Samuel Jackson was going to be in this, and just the look of the first trailer as well, where it didn't feel sort of like that just movie made to show off torture. It started to feel sort of like a drama cop suspense type of feel to it. And I think that's what really started capturing everybody's attention when they heard about this film. And that's exactly where I fell into it as well. So we finally get this movie after the delays. Of course, as you know, many movies were delayed due to the pandemic and everything happening. So this film finally came out, and it's only in theaters as well. So that was a big step, especially when you're hearing a lot of movies that are coming out both in theaters and also on demand. So if this movie's gonna do good, it has to do good in theaters, which is kind of a very interesting move for the studio to put this film, because I don't know if the demand for Saw is there as much. I feel like there is sort of like a disconnect between what maybe the audience of today want than what the people who grew up liking Saw want. And I don't know. I'm just curious to see how this does at the box office at the end of the weekend. But anyways, let's talk about what exactly happens here by the end of it. So this pretty much deals with us having a whodunit type scenario. And it sort of like plays into how the other Saw films play out, where there is a killer out there who is replicating John's traps and philosophy, if you will. And this is something we saw recurring in the movies after the third one, of course, after John's death, is who was behind all of it this time. And I thought that this was a very interesting way to handle this, because it's like, we've already seen this, haven't we? But I guess I'll watch it again. And so that's where we are with this film. And we followed two cops, one rookie and one veteran, which, of course, as you know, that always happens in these type of movies. Especially with cops, you get a rookie and a veteran. By the end of it, however, in the middle of it, we see the rookie actually go down and he is killed, and the veteran is trying to figure out what's going on. Now, the veteran, of course, here being Chris Rock, and his father is also missing a lot throughout the film, which is pointing the finger of, could he actually be the one involved in this? Well, that's not the case. We find out at the end that it's actually the rookie cop, William, who was involved in all of this as well. And what gives a lot of clues as well is that we never really see how William dies. We never really get like a whole close-up scene or anything like that this man is dead. And we find out that he actually had faked his death, and he had made it so that the scent on his trail would be somewhere else. And so what happens here is William is doing all of these traps and Saw jigsaw-esque like philosophy, because he actually was the son of an innocent man who was murdered by the police, because this man was trying to expose all of the corruption happening. And so he watched his father's death, and what he did was actually wait. He waited because he wanted to get his revenge, and so he was going to get his revenge from the inside. Now, he actually hopes that the veteran cop Zeke might be able to sort of take his side, because what happens is that Zeke actually, who is actually Chris Rock, by the way, witnessed this murder as well, and he actually turned in the crooked partner that he had that actually did this. And so we see this actually play out as a sort of like morality thing, I guess, if you want. Because what William is doing is getting his revenge, but he's also killing as well, because he's putting these cops and all of this in these situations where they pretty much are going to die. And that's something that we remember in the other Saw films happened, where there were people that actually tried to be John at a point, but they were actually more in it for revenge than actually trying to do anything better. And of course, you would want things to be cleaned up in the department, all of that. But I guess, as Zeke believes as well, is how do you do this without actually killing and hurting people, which William is doing. So that's not how it's done. What ends up happening, however, is we are pretty much ending this film with hopes for a sequel, if you will, because we see William actually escape, and then he actually gets the police to kill Chris Rock's father, who was played by Samuel Jackson. And now we are there with two rivals, and now Chris Rock wants revenge. So the cycle of revenge keeps on building, and this is where we're heading in for the next one. Now, Chris Rock has already said that he is talking to the studio about a Spiral 2. He had this to say: "We want this one to do well, so we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. But if this one does well, I could see myself doing this again. I don't want to spoil the movie, but it's open. Another one wouldn't be out of the question." He was also asked if he were to want to revive another horror franchise, because, as I said, he did actually ignite the flame that got them to do this one. And this is what he said: "I think Saw is the perfect one, honestly. I think the Saw franchise, especially what we set up in this one, especially Spiral, I think we can get a few out of this one." So, very much so, he is determined to continue this, and I could see him actually going for a trilogy with this. I think that the sort of philosophy and ideas that are presented in this fit with a modern take on this, especially with police corruption and all of this in our society. It's a perfect way to, I think, encompass it. Now, I don't know if the execution was done right, because I see that many people aren't feeling it, but I could definitely see how this is pretty much the beginning of it, and I can see where they can really expand this and make it a way, way better. The director, Darren Lynn Bousman, has also talked about the possible sequel. He had this to say: "Coming in this time, I think the idea was about institutions and corrupt institutions, and the police not being the only corrupt institution. That institution could be pharma, it could be churches, it could be police, but instead of going after individuals, we were going after institutions." So pretty much that's what it's doing, as we saw, is where John in the first three was going after people who were pretty much corrupt in themselves and not really appreciating life and all of that. And as we got further into the lore, we saw other individuals doing it for their own personal gain or for their own personal vendettas. Now in this one, we actually see it as individuals doing it to sort of stick it to the man, the machine, whatever you want to call it. So I could definitely see where they can expand further into this, especially with so much corruption in the world. They would definitely have a lot of material to go over and sort of have the whole William and Zeke story being the underline of it all. And then we have other individuals sort of copying William and doing it for their own stick it to the man type of routine. That could be very interesting to watch, and I'd be definitely pumped to see that as well. So let me know your thoughts on it below. We will definitely be seeing how this does at the box office, because that will really tell us if we are going to get a sequel for this or not, on how it does at the box office. As I said, this is not going to streaming, so it's all solely relying in theaters, and I'm very curious to see if it will do good, because this film just has 2 weeks before a huge blockbuster comes out and will pretty much overshadow it, I feel. And of course, I'm talking about A Quiet Place 2, which that film has been hyped already since it got pushed so many times. So it has 2 weeks to pretty much have the floor to itself and get those numbers up. I'm hoping it does, especially because I'm very curious to see where they take this franchise. And so, yeah, we're going to wait and see. Anyways, let me know your thoughts below on it, on the ending, on the twist. Are you excited for what comes next? Do you think that they can take this into a good direction? Or do you not like this and you don't think they should continue it and just put this to the side and focus on something else? Let me know below. Anyways, as always, that is going to do it for me. I will be trying to make more videos now that I'm able to be more clear-headed and all of that. Updates coming pretty soon on what's to come. But as always, make sure you subscribe, like, comment, share. I'll see all of you next time. Stay safe, stay positive.